Story number 1. The Haunting of Route 7. It feels like it was just yesterday, though it was back in the fall of 2011. I was 26, young for a night shift trucker, but I loved the open road solitude. That was until I encountered something on Route 7 that turned my world upside down. My road companion was Max, 29, a seasoned trucker with a tough exterior but a heart of gold. We would often exchange stories to keep each other awake during the long drives, but we always took them with a grain of salt. That changed one fateful night. Our descent into a nightmarish reality began with our trucks. The radios would suddenly blare static, and we hear whispers and cries, as if someone was trying to speak through the white noise. Our GPS systems would malfunction, leading us down dark, forgotten paths that seemed to exist in another time. The first incident that genuinely rattled us was when we found an abandoned car on a lonely stretch of Route 7. The doors were wide open, the engine still running, but there was no sign of the driver or any passengers. It was as if they had been plucked from existence. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. Driving through a thick fog one night, I saw a figure standing in the middle of the road. A young girl, no more than 20, wearing clothes that seemed from a different era. Her eyes were filled with an unspeakable fear. I blinked, and she was gone, leaving behind a chilling cold. Spurred by this encounter, Max and I started investigating. We were soon joined by Lily, a 24-year-old local journalist intrigued by our story. Night after night, we drove down Route 7, armed with cameras and voice recorders, searching for answers. Our explorations were fraught with strange phenomena. We captured fleeting images of figures on the roadside, and our recorders picked up eerie, unexplained sounds. Other truckers spoke of similar experiences, of ghostly apparitions, and sudden temperature drops. The most harrowing discovery came when we delved into the local history. We found records of a tragic accident on Route 7 from the 1980s. A young woman and her family had vanished without a trace. Their story had been forgotten, but it seemed their spirits remained. We realized that Route 7 was more than just a road, it was a realm of lost souls, trapped between worlds. We compiled our findings and presented them to the local authorities, but our tales fell on deaf ears. Undeterred, we created a documentary, sharing our haunting experiences on Route 7. It didn't bring the closure we hoped for, but it shed light on the forgotten tragedy, offering a voice to those lost souls. Now, whenever I drive at night, especially on Route 7, a sense of unease accompanies me. The memories of those nights, the ghostly figures, and the chilling whispers served as a haunting reminder of the year when the road revealed its eerie past to a group of young truckers who dared to uncover its secrets. Story number 2. Night Whispers on the Lone Highway. The year 2012 is imprinted in my mind like a haunting melody. I was 28 then, a night shift trucker, driving the endless roads of the American suburbs. That year, the roads whispered stories that defied reality and reason. My partner on these night hauls was Tyler, a 27-year-old trucker who found solace in the quiet of the night. We often shared lighthearted banter, but our conversations soon turned to eerie experiences we couldn't explain. Our journey into the paranormal started subtly. Our truck's electronics would act up, with the GPS leading us down unknown, misty roads and the radio emitting static-filled voices speaking unintelligible words. The first unnerving event was when we came across an old, rusted truck on a remote path. The door was open, the engine cold, but no driver in sight. It was as though the driver had evaporated into the night air. But it was one particular incident that remains seared in my memory. Driving through a dense fog, I saw a figure appear in the middle of the road. A young man, around 25, dressed in tattered clothes, his eyes hollow with despair. I stopped the truck, but he vanished like a wisp of smoke, leaving a bone-chilling cold in his wake. This encounter drove Tyler and me to seek answers. We were joined by Anna, a 24-year-old local blogger fascinated by the supernatural. Together, we embarked on a series of night drives, equipped with recording devices, determined to document the unexplained. Our nightly excursions revealed more than we bargained for. We captured eerie audio recordings of whispers and shadows that darted at the edge of our headlights. Other truckers we met shared their stories of spectral figures and sudden, unexplainable cold spots. Our most shocking discovery was an old newspaper article we found in a roadside diner. It spoke of a young trucker who had mysteriously disappeared on the same route we were traveling in the early 2000s. His truck was found abandoned, just like the one we had encountered. We realized that the roads we traveled were more than just concrete paths. They were storied with the echoes of lost souls. Despite our findings, local authorities dismissed our stories as mere illusions of the tired mind. Undaunted, we compiled our experiences into a documentary, hoping to shed light on the mysteries of the lone highway. Though the strange occurrences on the road never fully subsided, our documentary brought some attention to the haunting tales of the night shift truckers. To this day, whenever I hit the road at night, a sense of unease accompanies me, a reminder of that year when the road whispered its dark secrets, revealing the unseen horrors that lurk in the shadows of the American suburbs. Story number 3. The Phantom Rig. The year 2013 remains a chapter in my life that I often revisit in disbelief and fear. I was 27 at the time, a trucker accustomed to the isolation and long hours on the roads that snake through the suburbs of the United States. That year, however, the road showed me it had its own tales to tell, tales of the inexplicable and the eerie. My friend and fellow trucker, Jared, 30, always had a penchant for the supernatural. We would exchange spooky stories to keep each other entertained during the long drives, but we never took them seriously. Until the events of 2013 made believers out of us. It began with odd occurrences with our trucks. The radios would randomly switch on, filling the cab with static and disjointed voices. Our GPS systems would sometimes malfunction, leading us down dark, forgotten roads that were not on any map. The first truly unnerving incident was when we discovered an old, abandoned truck on a rarely used service road. The keys were in the ignition, the driver's seat empty, as if the driver had vanished into thin air. But what really shook me to the core was a sighting one fateful night. I was driving through a dense fog when I saw a figure looming ahead. It was a young woman, standing in the middle of the road, her eyes filled with an unimaginable terror. As I slowed down, she disappeared as if she was never there, leaving a chilling emptiness. Driven by a mix of curiosity and dread, Jared and I started to dig deeper into these mysteries. We were joined by Rachel, a 25-year-old local investigative reporter. Night after night, we traversed the same roads, armed with cameras and audio recorders, in search of answers. Our explorations unearthed a series of chilling encounters. We recorded strange, unexplained sounds, and our cameras caught fleeting glimpses of figures that seemed to vanish when we tried to focus on them. We met other truckers who shared their own eerie experiences, stories of ghostly apparitions and spectral trucks that appeared and disappeared without a trace. Our most startling discovery was an old newspaper article about a tragic accident on one of these roads in the late 2000s. A young female trucker had lost her life, and her body was never recovered. It seemed her spirit was still haunting these roads. Despite gathering what evidence we could, our stories were met with skepticism by the authorities. Undeterred, we compiled our findings into a documentary, hoping to bring attention to the haunted highways and the spirits that lingered. The documentary gained a modest following, but the mystery of the Phantom rig and its lost driver remained unsolved. To this day, whenever I'm on the road at night, a sense of unease follows me, a reminder of the year when the darkness of the highways revealed its ghostly inhabitants to a group of young truckers who dared to delve into the unknown. Story number 4. Echoes of the Forgotten Road. It was the year 2014, a time that remains vivid in my mind, filled with haunting memories. I was 29, a trucker accustomed to the solitude of the night shift, cruising the long stretches of highways in the American suburbs. That year, however, the roads revealed a side I never knew existed, a side shrouded in mystery and terror. My partner on the road was Tom, a 28-year-old who had seen his share of weird things but always found a rational explanation. We had always swapped stories to pass the time, but what we experienced that year was beyond any ordinary tale. Our descent into the unknown began with our truck's electronics. The radios would unexpectedly tune into static-laden frequencies, and amidst the white noise, we hear whispers, as if someone was trying to speak to us from afar. Our GPS systems would occasionally malfunction, leading us down eerie, untraveled paths that seemed to appear and disappear at will. The first incident that truly shook us was finding an abandoned car at a roadside diner. The engine was still running, the driver's door open, but there were no signs of any occupants. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. But nothing prepared me for what happened one foggy night. Driving through a particularly isolated area, I saw a figure in the headlights. A young man, no more than 25, standing still in the middle of the road. His eyes were filled with an indescribable fear. I stopped the truck, but when I looked again, he was gone. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Tom and I began investigating these strange occurrences. We were joined by a local college student, Emily, 24, who was studying folklore and was intrigued by our experiences. Together, we embarked on a series of night drives, documenting everything. Our explorations brought us face to face with the inexplicable. We captured strange shadows on our cameras and unexplained sounds on our audio recorders. We talked to other truckers and locals who had their own stories of ghostly figures and mysterious lights on these roads. Our most chilling discovery came from a local historian. We learned about a tragic accident on this very road in the early 2000s. A young trucker had mysteriously disappeared, and his truck was found abandoned, much like the car we had found. We realized these roads held stories of the past, echoing the tragedies long forgotten. Despite our findings, local authorities dismissed our claims as mere coincidences and fabrications. Undeterred, we compiled our experiences into a documentary, hoping to shed light on the forgotten road and its haunting echoes. Though the documentary didn't receive widespread attention, it brought a sense of closure to us and the few who dared to believe. Now, whenever I drive at night, a sense of unease follows me, a reminder of the year when the quiet roads whispered their dark secrets, revealing the unseen and unheard echoes of the forgotten road to a group of young truckers. Story number 5. The Shadows of Highway 21. The year 2015 haunts me like a ghostly presence on a deserted road. I was 29 then, a trucker accustomed to the loneliness and endless stretches of the American highways during the night shift. That year, the roads I had traveled so often revealed a harrowing side I had never imagined. My friend and fellow trucker, Nick, just 27, was always a skeptic, a man who believed only what he saw. We'd often exchange spooky stories and laugh them off, but what we experienced in 2015 changed everything. Our journey into the unknown began with peculiar malfunctions in our trucks. The radios would crackle to life, emitting static-filled voices, and our GPS systems would lead us down strange, forgotten paths that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The first incident that shook us to our core was when we came across a deserted car on a remote part of Highway 21. The keys were in the ignition, the engine still warm, but there was no sign of the driver or any passengers. But the encounter that still chills me to the bone happened on a foggy night. I was driving through a particularly remote area when a figure suddenly appeared in my headlights. A young woman, no older than 20, with a look of unspeakable terror in her eyes. I stopped the truck, but when I got out, she was nowhere to be seen. Compelled by these encounters, Nick and I started digging for answers. We were joined by a young local reporter, Jenna, 25, who was drawn to our experiences. Night after night, we drove down Highway 21, armed with cameras and audio recorders, searching for clues. Our explorations revealed eerie phenomena. We captured fleeting images of figures by the roadside and recorded unexplained noises that seemed to echo through the night. Other truckers we met shared their stories of mysterious figures and phantom trucks that appeared and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Our most startling discovery was an old newspaper article about a tragic accident on Highway 21 in the late 90s. A young couple had vanished without a trace, their car found abandoned in the same spot where we had encountered the deserted vehicle. We realized that Highway 21 was more than just a route. It was a silent witness to tragedies and unexplained events. Despite our findings, local authorities dismissed our claims as mere coincidences or fabrications. Undeterred, we created a documentary chronicling our haunting experiences on Highway 21. Though it didn't gain widespread attention, it brought some awareness to the mysterious occurrences on that stretch of road. To this day, every time I drive on Highway 21, especially at night, I can't shake off the feeling of being watched, a reminder of the year when the road whispered its dark, haunting secrets, revealing the unseen horrors to a group of young truckers brave enough to explore them. Story number 6. The Ghostly Freight of Route 9. The year 2016 remains etched in my memory, a year when the ordinary roads I traveled as a 30-year-old night shift trucker became corridors of unexplained terror. It was a year that transformed my perception of the long, lonely stretches of highways across the American suburbs. My fellow trucker, Ethan, who was 28 at the time, shared my passion for the open road. We often joked about the eerie tales of truckers, but never believed them ourselves. That was until we encountered something on Route 9 that neither of us could explain. Our descent into this otherworldly ordeal began with our trucks acting up. The radios would randomly turn on, filling the cab with static and voices that seemed to whisper in a language we couldn't understand. Our GPS devices would sometimes lead us down fog-covered roads that were not on any map. The first incident that genuinely alarmed us was when we came across a seemingly abandoned trailer on a secluded part of Route 9. The doors were swung open, the cargo untouched, but the driver was nowhere to be seen, as if they had just vanished. But the event that haunts me to this day occurred on a particularly foggy night. As I was driving, a figure suddenly appeared in my headlights. It was a young man, staring blankly into the distance, his expression one of deep sorrow. When I stopped to check, there was nobody there. Driven by a mix of intrigue and unease, Ethan and I started digging into the history of Route 9. We were joined in our investigation by a local journalist, Olivia, who was 26 and had a keen interest in paranormal phenomena. Together, we embarked on a series of night drives, hoping to uncover the truth. Our explorations were filled with eerie occurrences. We recorded strange, unexplainable sounds on our devices and captured fleeting images of figures that seemed to vanish as soon as we saw them. We spoke with other truckers who recounted similar experiences of ghostly figures and sudden, intense feelings of dread. Our most chilling discovery was an old news article about a tragic accident on Route 9 in the early 2000s. A young trucker had lost his life, and rumors circulated that his spirit still haunted the road. Despite collecting what evidence we could, our findings were met with skepticism by the local authorities. Unwilling to let the story fade, we compiled our experiences into a documentary, seeking to shed light on the haunting of Route 9. The documentary garnered a small following, but the mystery of Route 9 remained unsolved. To this day, whenever I drive at night, especially along that stretch of road, I can't help but feel a lingering presence, a reminder of the year when the road revealed its ghostly freight, forever changing the lives of a group of young truckers who dared to delve into its secrets. Story number 7. The Midnight Roads. In 2017, my reality as a night shift trucker was altered in a way I still struggle to comprehend. At 29, I was well versed in the solitude of the highways, the constant hum of the truck the only companion on my long journeys through the American suburbs. But that year, the roads whispered tales of terror and mystery. My fellow trucker, Anna, just 27, was as tough as they come, but even she couldn't shrug off the eerie events that began to unfold. We always thought the stories of haunted highways were just that, stories. We couldn't have been more wrong. It started with unexplainable glitches in our trucks. Radios would suddenly switch on in the dead of night, emitting a cacophony of static that seemed to carry faint, distant voices. Our GPS systems would malfunction, leading us down forgotten roads shrouded in mist and darkness. The first incident that truly shook us was when we came across an old, abandoned pickup on a remote service road. The engine was cold, the driver's door ajar, but there was no sign of the driver. It felt as though they had simply vanished into the night. But what haunts me the most happened on the night draped in fog. I saw a figure standing by the roadside, a young man, no more than 25, his eyes hollow with an unspeakable sadness. He vanished as I approached, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of despair. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Anna and I began investigating these strange occurrences. We were joined by a local college student, Liam, 26, who had a fascination with urban legends and the supernatural. Equipped with cameras and audio recorders, we set out to uncover the truth of the midnight roads. Our journey led us to encounter inexplicable phenomena. Our cameras captured fleeting images of figures that appeared and disappeared into the night, and our audio recorders picked up unexplained whispers and cries. We spoke to other truckers who shared their own eerie experiences, tales of phantom vehicles and spectral figures appearing in the dead of night. Our most unsettling discovery was a series of old newspaper reports about a series of unexplained disappearances on these very roads, dating back to the 1990s. The victims were young, their stories left unfinished, their fates unknown. Despite gathering compelling evidence, our findings were met with skepticism. Undeterred, we compiled our experiences into a documentary, hoping to bring attention to the haunted highways and the lost souls that roamed them. The documentary gained a modest following, but the mystery of the midnight roads remained unsolved. Now, whenever I drive at night, a sense of unease accompanies me, a reminder of the year when the roads revealed their hidden, haunting truths, and I came face to face with the unspeakable horrors that lurk in the shadows. Story number 8. The Haunting of Dead Man's Curve. The year 2018 lingers in my mind like a chilling fog that refuses to lift. I was then 30, a seasoned trucker accustomed to the loneliness of the night shift on the sprawling highways of the American suburbs. But that year, the road revealed to me its hidden, ghostly side. I usually rode solo, but occasionally I was accompanied by Derek, a 28-year-old trucker who loved the thrill of the night drive. We used to scoff at the ghost stories of the road, dismissing them as mere fabrications. Until we experienced the unexplainable for ourselves. Our descent into the realm of the paranormal began with small, inexplicable malfunctions in our trucks. Radios would turn on by themselves, emitting static that seemed to carry faint, haunting whispers. GPS devices would occasionally reroute us to desolate, off-the-map roads enveloped in an eerie mist. The first incident that truly shook us was when we stumbled upon a car wreck at the infamous Dead Man's Curve. The vehicle was twisted beyond recognition, and there was no sign of any driver or passengers. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. But the most harrowing encounter happened one night when I saw a figure standing on the edge of the road near the curve. It was a young woman, her eyes wide with terror, gazing into the distance. I stopped my truck, but when I looked back, she was gone, leaving behind a bone-chilling cold. Compelled by these encounters, Derek and I started to delve into the mysteries surrounding Dead Man's Curve. Our investigation was joined by a local journalist, Emily, 26, who had heard of our experiences and was eager to uncover the truth. Night after night, we ventured to the curve, armed with cameras and audio recorders. Our devices captured strange, unexplainable sounds and brief glimpses of figures that appeared and then vanished without a trace. We also interviewed other truckers, many of whom had their own tales of ghostly sightings and eerie experiences near the curve. Our most chilling discovery came from historical records. We found reports of a tragic accident that had occurred at Dead Man's Curve in the late 1990s. A young couple had died there, and it was rumored that their spirits still haunted the spot. Despite our findings, local authorities dismissed our claims as mere superstitions. Unfazed, we compiled our experiences into a documentary, hoping to bring attention to the haunted legacy of Dead Man's Curve. The documentary gained a small following, but the mystery of the curve remained unsolved. To this day, whenever I drive near the dreaded bend in the road at night, a sense of unease washes over me, a reminder of the year when the road whispered its dark secrets, revealing the haunting of Dead Man's Curve to a group of young truckers who dared to listen. Story number 9. Whispers on the Windy Road. The year 2019 will forever be etched in my mind, a year when the familiar highways I traversed as a 30-year-old night shift trucker morphed into avenues of terror and mystery. These roads in the suburbs of the United States, once mundane stretches of asphalt, became conduits for the unexplainable and the eerie. My companion on these long, nocturnal journeys was Jake, 29, a fellow trucker who had always prided himself on his pragmatism. But what we experienced that year challenged even his staunch skepticism. It began with a series of technological anomalies within our trucks. Radios would spontaneously crackle to life, emitting a cacophony of static through which we thought we could hear faint, distorted voices. Our GPS systems would inexplicably malfunction, rerouting us down desolate, fog-enshrouded paths that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. The first incident that truly unnerved us was the discovery of an abandoned sedan on a lonely stretch of road. The engine was running, the driver's door open, but there was no sign of any occupants, as if they had been swallowed by the night itself. But the incident that haunts my dreams occurred on a particularly isolated route. As I drove through a dense fog, a shadowy figure emerged on the road ahead. It was a young woman, her eyes wide with an unspeakable fear, standing motionless. I stopped the truck, but when I stepped out to investigate, she had vanished into the mist. Compelled by a mixture of fear and an insatiable need for answers, Jake and I embarked on an investigation into these bizarre occurrences. We were joined by Sarah, a 26-year-old local reporter with a keen interest in the paranormal. Night after night, we patrolled these haunted stretches of road, armed with cameras and audio recorders, determined to document our encounters. Our efforts unveiled a chilling pattern. We captured fleeting glimpses of figures on the edge of the road and recorded eerie, unexplained sounds that seemed to echo from the depths of the darkness. Conversations with other truckers revealed that we were not alone in our experiences. Many had their own tales of spectral sightings and strange phenomena. The most disturbing discovery came from delving into the local history. We unearthed old newspaper articles about a series of tragic accidents on these roads dating back to the late 90s. The victims, many of them young, seemed to have been forgotten by time. Despite our best efforts to present our findings, our stories were met with skepticism by the authorities. Unwilling to let these tales fade into obscurity, we compiled our evidence into a documentary, shedding light on the haunted highways and the restless spirits that lingered there. Though the documentary garnered only a modest following, it served as a testament to our eerie experiences. To this day, each time I embark on a night drive, the memories of 2019 linger in my mind, a reminder of the year the road whispered its ghostly secrets and revealed its unseen inhabitants to a group of young truckers brave enough to listen. Story number 10. The Lost Highway. The year 2020, a time that the world will remember for chaos and uncertainty, holds a different kind of horror for me. At the age of 30, I was a trucker, accustomed to the solitude of the night roads that wound through the outskirts of American suburbs. But that year, the roads I thought I knew unveiled a layer of reality that was both terrifying and unfathomable. My driving partner was Lily, 28, a brave soul who had seen much of life from behind the wheel. We used to share laughs over the radio to keep each other awake, but our light-hearted chats soon turned into shared concerns and fears. Our descent into a world of unexplainable horror began with small, but noticeable malfunctions in our trucks. The radios would spontaneously switch channels, settling on stations that emitted nothing but static, punctuated by what seemed like distant whispers. Our GPS systems would sometimes take us down roads that seemed unfamiliar, even though they were on our regular routes. The first incident that truly shook us was when we found an overturned truck in a ditch by the highway. The driver's cabin was empty, the windscreen shattered, but there was no sign of the driver. It was as if the earth had swallowed them whole. But the most haunting experience was yet to come. One night, while navigating a particularly notorious stretch known as the Lost Highway, I saw a figure in my rearview mirror. It was a young man, standing motionless by the side of the road, his eyes reflecting a deep, otherworldly sorrow. When I stopped the truck and looked back, there was no one there. Driven by these chilling encounters, Lily and I began to delve deeper. We were joined in our quest by a local podcaster, Ethan, 26, who specialized in urban legends and paranormal stories. Armed with recording equipment, we set out to uncover the truth of the Lost Highway. Our night drives revealed more than we had bargained for. We captured eerie sounds on our audio recorders and fleeting shadows on our cameras. Talking to other truckers, we discovered we were not alone in our experiences. Many spoke of ghostly apparitions, sudden temperature drops, and a pervasive sense of dread on certain stretches of the highway. Our most unsettling discovery was an old newspaper article about a series of mysterious disappearances on the Lost Highway dating back to the early 2000s. The victims were young, and their cases had gone cold, leaving more questions than answers. Despite gathering compelling evidence, our findings were met with skepticism. Undeterred, we compiled our experiences into a documentary, hoping to shed light on the haunted highway and the spirits that roamed it. The documentary gained some traction, but the mystery of the lost highway remained unsolved. Now, whenever I drive at night, especially along that forsaken stretch of road, a sense of foreboding accompanies me, a reminder of the year when the highway revealed its hidden, ghostly world to a group of young truckers who dared to confront it.